This week in the astrology, we get a ton of clarity and a lot of new beginnings. That's because this week we start the week off with the new moon in Gemini. And then later on this week, we get the Mercury cazimi in Gemini. And if you're not familiar with what the word cazimi means, it's essentially when a planet conjoins the sun and that planet kind of gets refreshed and reborn again. But it's a Mercury cazimi. So Mercury is all about communication, ideas, and thinking. It is in its home sign of Gemini. Jupiter has been in Gemini for the past year, which has been an absolute mess. And Mercury coming in to make a cazimi is going to clear up a lot of things that have been going on in the area of your chart that Gemini rules over. So this is an incredibly exciting week. There's a lot of information to gain. There's a lot of clarity. So let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. Welcome back to the Astrology Report, this time for May 26th through June 1st of 2025. My name is Cam White, and my job is to let you know exactly what is going on in the universe and let you know how to use it to your advantage and not be a little weak victim to it and cry about it. I'm here to actually support you and get you to the top of your game, because in this house, we don't use the astrology to blame our lives, right? We take accountability, especially now that Saturn's in Aries for the next little while. Like I said in the intro, we have the new moon in Aries, we have the Mercury cazimi, and then we have a very interesting highlight at the end of the week, which is Venus conjoining Chiron. Not something I always typically talk about, but it's interesting given the whole Venus retrograde phase that we just got done going over. And before we begin, quick adjustment. I changed my lighting. My lighting actually looks good, so sorry if it looked like shit over the past couple weeks. It's been a huge problem of mine. I also recalibrated my microphone. I get a lot of complaints about my microphone, and the thing is, if you do any sort of audio work, this Shure SM7B is the microphone I'm using. There's a little Allen wrench or a little Allen screw right here that it is impossible to find an Allen wrench to fit in here to tighten it. And so when it gets loose, that bass and that rumble happens a lot more. Like I can hit the table, and if it's tight on, it won't actually make any noise. But if it's loose, it will kind of wobble and it creates a lot of that bass noise. So I've got a lot of complaints about it. I'm super sorry in the past. It's just a pain in the ass to find a fucking Allen wrench to fit this stupid size in here. So I went ahead and did the due diligence. If the audio sounds better, let me know. If it sounds worse, let me know too, because I'm still up in the air about it. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. So we're starting Monday off with the moon conjoining Uranus while it's in Taurus, and then the moon will ingress into Gemini. It's going to make a sextile to Saturn. It will then conjoin Mercury as we get the new moon in Gemini. But actually first, also as well, big announcement. If you didn't see my posts on Instagram, if you didn't see my posts on YouTube, I am offering a free 90-day challenge. The reason I'm doing this is for my own personal reasons. I want to take these next 90 days really seriously in my life and get ahead of everything that I'm behind and really just re-identify myself. But I decided, you know what? Why do it all myself? Why not let other people join in the process? And so what I'm offering is the free 90-day new identity challenge. If you are interested in it, go ahead and check out the link below where you'll be able to sign up. It is, again, 100% absolutely free. And I'm giving you guys a guide on how to change your life over these next 90 days while Saturn is in Aries. Saturn's only going to be in Aries for about 90, I think it's like 97, 98 days, but we're going to be starting it on June 1st and it's going to end on September 1st when Saturn retrogresses back into Pisces. So technically Saturn enters Aries, I think on the 25th or the 24th of May. And we'll have this next week. So this weekly that you're watching, this next week of preparation and getting ready for the 90-day challenge. And essentially what I want you to do is do the hardest things that you could possibly can. They're not going to be easy, but I want you to create a new identity. So when you sign up, you're going to get a little like a PDF thing. I might do a video, I might do a PDF. I'm not exactly sure yet of exactly how it's going to be affecting your zodiac sign, but also understanding how to use this to your advantage. So the rules of the 90-day thing is essentially, hey, whatever you want to change in your life, you've got 90 days to take it super seriously. And just for 90 days, I want you to go as hard as humanly possible. And you can do any topic in your life that you want. You could do any challenge that you want to do, but I'm going to lay out the framework for how it's going to be looking in your birth chart so that, for example, because astrology is very real, you'll see how this relates to your current context and you put the pieces together of what you need to take seriously. And so for me personally, I have a huge laundry list of things that I want to accomplish in this next 90 days. It's going to be really, really fun. I think it's going to be really exciting. And look, and it's just about taking the next 90 days seriously. We get to September, you can relax, you can give up. And I'm going to be making more content around this too. So if you haven't subscribed already and you want to get more personal development content, I'm going to be putting out a lot of that stuff. So like I said, I'll put the link in the description so you guys can sign up. I'll put a link and I'll pin it in the comments too so you can sign up. Like I said, it's absolutely free. I'm doing it for myself and I just figured, you know what? Why not get other people on board and see if anyone else wants to change their life over the next 90 days? So I will see you in the 90-day challenge. We'll be posting more about that. But now let's jump into the astrology. So we start Monday off with the moon conjoining Uranus in Taurus, and then the moon is going to then ingress into Gemini. It's going to make a sextile to Saturn at the very beginning. Then it will conjoin Mercury, and then we have the new moon in Gemini. I'm so excited for this Gemini stuff that we have going on for a lot of reasons. Number one, Jupiter has been in Gemini for the past year, and it's going to be going into Cancer next week, I believe. Or not next week, but a little bit after next week. And the thing is, Jupiter just makes a mess in Gemini because Jupiter is all about expanding and it's in detriment in Gemini, right? So if Jupiter is all about expansion and Mercury is the tiniest planet, it's like having paperwork everywhere. A scene that I think about a lot with Jupiter and Gemini is the scene from Bruce Almighty, where he's at the time he's God and he's trying to organize all of his prayers and he does sticky notes. And what's such a funny example of that is that's literally a Jupiter thing, like prayers and answering prayers, but he's trying to do it through this mercurial lens of like sticky notes and files and emails, and you just can't keep up with it. And so why I like this Gemini period is this is the time where we get to say, you know what, Mercury's back home. Let's clean up the mess that Jupiter has made. And this new moon in Gemini is giving us that opportunity to really look at that Gemini part of our lives. What has Jupiter done there for better or for worse? And let's get organized about it. Now, the thing is with the new moon, it's about just putting all of the energy there. The moon is dark. It's invisible right now. So it's just, hey, let's just simply look over here. It's not a full moon. A full moon is about illuminating things that we haven't seen or illuminating the dark. This is about, hey, there's just a lot of emphasis and energy here. And as we start Monday, as the moon conjoins Uranus, there's going to be a little disruption on how you start your week. Not the biggest deal. But as the moon goes into Gemini and we start the new moon, this is kind of like, hey, it's a Monday. It's a new week. Are we vibing? Parker, put up the blue shirt dance guy. If you haven't seen this video, this is the vibe of the summer. This is what we're going into. And I think this new moon in Gemini really kind of emphasizes just this dance and this energy. And the big part about the moon conjoining Mercury and then going into the new moon is, what do you need to know? This is all about information. This is all about understanding. And it's just, hey, let's just write everything on a notepad. What do we need to understand? What do we need to know? What do we need a refresher on? And this is why I'm titling this weekly, It's Time to Get Clear About Some Stuff. And this week is just so good about getting clear on everything in your life, especially when it comes to communication with other people, with your own ideas, with your own plan for the summer. And so on Monday, as we get clear on what things need to change, we then jump into Tuesday, where on Tuesday, the moon's going to be in Gemini. It's going to be making a sextile to Mars in Leo, and then a sextile to Venus in Aries. And look, Tuesday's just kind of a vibe. It's not that big of a deal, but it's very flirty and fun and witty. I'm biased because my whole chart is fire and air. So of course I love all the fire and air transits. But when you have the moon in Gemini, it's very like expressive. It's very talking about the way that we feel and not having that filter. As it sextiles Mars and sextiles Venus, there's just this kind of like, you know, a little bit brash, a little bit flirty, a little bit dangerous, like vibe in the air. So there's this high energy on Tuesday that I think is really exciting, especially now because the moon will technically be the new moon, since at this point you will be able to see the moon. And it's making that sextile to Mars and Venus where we still have that fire energy going on. So Tuesday is just kind of a vibe. We then get into Wednesday and the moon will make its conjunction to Jupiter. And then the moon is going to ingress into Cancer. And then it's going to square Saturn and Neptune. So Wednesday has two different vibes. And the first way to look at it is the moon conjoins Jupiter is too much yapping. I'm on a lot of caffeine right now. You guys know when I'm on a lot of caffeine, but I'm also just feeling good. I'm in a different headspace. And as the moon conjoins Jupiter, it's almost too much yapping, too much going on, too much information. And while that can be really, really good, just know that there's kind of a come down. There's kind of a crash afterwards, especially as the moon goes into Cancer. Here in Las Vegas, they just had EDC, and all my friends are staying up till like 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, raving. And then it's like, you have that fun, you have that excitement, but then, after a couple days of drinking and doing drugs, you don't really feel all that good. And as the moon conjoins Jupiter, look, there's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, but then later on in the day, as the moon goes into Cancer, this is about sensitivity and about nurturing, about taking care of yourself. But it immediately squares Neptune and Saturn. And this is where you're going to start getting a little bit sensitive, right? The moon being in Cancer is our emotions are a little bit more heightened, for better or for worse, right? Like that's going to be good for being more sensitive in areas that you need to be, but it might be bad where you might be a little bit on edge or just frustrated. Because as the moon goes into Cancer and it squares Neptune, I think the hardest part about these squares to Neptune and Saturn are, okay, here are what my needs are. But as you square Neptune and Aries, it's like, okay, I understand what I need, but what do I actually do? Like, you need to feel better. Like, let's just use this like, EDC case. You need to feel better. What are the things that you're going to do to get there? Is it a detox? Is it a spa? Is it a, sauna? What is it? And then as the moon makes that square to Saturn and Aries, there's resistance, right? Saturn says no to a lot of things. And the moon in Cancer might be like, hey, you want to take care of yourself. Maybe you want to rest. You want to be a little bit more in a bubble bath mode, but it's squaring Saturn in Aries and you've got shit to do. You don't have the time to do the self-care stuff. You don't have the time or the energy to do all those things. You have responsibilities and it's time to go. So that's going to be kind of frustrating on Wednesday, especially because this is our first aspect from the moon to Saturn in Aries. And it's interesting that it comes from, yeah, like on Monday when the moon goes into Gemini and sextile Saturn, that is kind of the first aspect. But as we have this moon in Cancer square to Saturn in Aries, that's going to give us insight to when Jupiter goes into Cancer and squares Saturn in Aries. But it's really just kind of this like, I really want to relax. I really want to, take care of my needs, but I have these heavy responsibilities. I have these restrictions. I have these deadlines. So there's going to be this kind of frustrating feeling on Wednesday. But then we get to Thursday and we have our second highlight of the week, which is the Mercury Cazimi. And then we'll just have the moon slowly applying to a square with Venus in Aries. The moon will not make its square to Venus in Aries until way later on in the night. But as we have that energy throughout the day, the moon being in Cancer, again, still being sensitive, still being more on the nurturing, protecting, feeling good vibe, it's squaring Venus in Aries, where the thing I wrote down is, I just found out that Devo, the singer of Devo, so like Whip It, that song, he has Venus in Aries, which is so like a perfect example of like what Venus in Aries is, right? Like a little dangerous fun. And the thing I wrote down was, you need aftercare, not punishment. And the moon in Cancer squaring Venus in Aries is maybe misreading the vibe, right? Like, hey, this isn't a time of like, being raunchy. It's a little bit, hey, like I need a little bit of sensitivity here. And that might kind of be jarring. And jarring is, I think, maybe even an extreme word to use there, but just kind of like, hey, make sure you're still reading, someone's body language or, reading their facial expressions before you just kind of go into the fun. But we have the Mercury Cazimi, and this is the most exciting transit that we have in this week. I'm really looking forward to this because this is a time to get organized, especially get digitally organized. Like, all of our lives are digital now. Everything is on a computer. Everything is on the internet. Everything is everywhere. I'm using this time to really, really get organized digitally, especially too, as things change in the world. Like this would be a really good time to buy a computer. People are like, well, tariffs and, the tariffs change every, 2 seconds. In any case, if there is a China-Taiwan war, your computer is going to cost $30,000 and it's going to be a year-long wait list. This would be an excellent time to get new computer equipment, get new technology equipment, and preparing for stuff like that. If you are in that mindset, and if not, don't worry about it. But like for me personally, I'm getting a NAS system to start being a little bit more in control of my data and a little bit more control of my files and everything like that. So that's just the way that I'm using it. But it's just a really clear moment of understanding things, having a moment of clarity, communicating things clearly. And that's something to specifically look out for a Mercury Cazimi, is like a message being received, you saying something to someone or someone saying something to you that is very notable, that is very important. And so a lot of Thursday is like everything just kind of coming together. And yes, there's a little bit of harshness. Harshness is maybe even too extreme of a word for the moon squaring Venus, but there's a lot of just ideas and information and getting our heads together. And if you're a part of the 90-day new identity challenge, this is where we're getting clear about what your plan is, what you're going to do, what you're going to accomplish, how you're going to, how you're going to overcome the obstacles and challenges, and how you're going to be remaining disciplined with your word, with your commitments without giving up. So that's extremely exciting on Thursday. We get to Friday and the moon will still be in Cancer. It will make a sextile to Uranus, and then it goes into Leo, where it will trine Saturn. It will then trine Neptune. It will go opposite Pluto. So the thing I wrote down for the moon in Cancer, sextiling Uranus and Taurus, is kind of like last minute new toy, new gizmo, new gadget. I think a lot about Cancer and Taurus is like kitchen supplies and, cooking utensils. Like maybe you get a new Ninja blender or something like that. Like that's kind of like a new technology thing for food. That is an example. That is an analogy of what that is. The moon in Cancer being like, what are my needs? What do I want to, have that makes me feel good? Sextiling Uranus, some sort of new tech, some sort of, innovation. But essentially it's some sort of little spur of the moment vibe. But the moon goes into Leo. That's exciting. We have the sun in Gemini, moon in Leo, feeling confident, feeling brave. As it trines Saturn in Aries, there's kind of this determination to this where, like, here's the deal with Saturn in Aries. Like, it kind of separates the boys from the men in a lot of ways, where if you want things to be easy, they're not going to be. If you understand that things are going to be hard, and it's that hard work that actually pays off the biggest rewards. Like, this is something that, like, I'm really into manifestation. And while I love all of the positive stuff about it too, and I try to practice that, because of my chart and who I am, I really lean on a different perspective. Like, number one is earning it. There's a difference between manifesting, right, $100,000 or $1,000,000. There's a huge discrepancy, though, between earning that. Because if you're just given $1,000,000, you didn't earn it. It means nothing to you. While it's exciting, you're not going to care for it. You're not going to respect it the way that maybe you think you would. And again, just look at the people who win the lottery, who jump into a lot of money. They shit it away because they didn't earn it. They don't understand what it took to get there. And there's something so much more respectable about earning it. And something that I'm going to start talking about a lot, especially because I want to start doing more personal development content and, putting out that part of me here. One of the things that I want to talk about more is, if you want to manifest something in your life, you have to create a situation in which the universe has no choice but to reward you, right? Did you do everything that you could? Did you cross all of your T's? Did you dot all of your I's? Did you absolutely try your very best? Not just try 80%, but you tried 100%. And if you put yourself in a situation in your life where the universe has no choice but to reward you, you will get rewarded. And there's no escapes. There's no, I could have done this better, or I could have done that better, but actually doing what it takes to get there and earning it. And I say this because that's a big thing of Saturn and Aries. Like, you're going to have to work for it and labor for it. There are going to be restrictions, and there's going to be more discipline, and there's going to be limitations to what we can actually do. And so therefore it will be difficult, but that does not mean impossible. And the reward is so much bigger when you put in that effort. When you, again, think of anything in your life that just came easy to you, right? Not complaining about when things come easy to you, right? That's great. But the reward, when you fucking worked your ass off for something and you got it, like, you put in the attention, you did everything you can, and you tried your fucking best. And even if you failed and you tried your best, you still feel good. You failed on your own terms. That's what this is about. And as the moon goes into Leo and trines Saturn and Aries, there's a pride to that. There is pride in your labor. There is so many people, be a craftsman. Care about what you're doing. Take it seriously. Put your name on things and don't be afraid of that. And I like that for the moon in Leo, making that trine to Saturn and Neptune, is just thinking about things in those terms. As the moon then goes opposite Pluto, though, again, are you going to worry about what other people think of you? Are you going to make these tiny things into these big fears in your life? Or are you going to make all of the big fears really small and insignificant? That's the question with this Pluto and Aquarius stuff, especially to society and people. It blows my mind how in 2025 people are still afraid of posting on social media. Like, who cares what you think? Who cares what anybody else thinks? Everyone's weird, everyone's dumb, everyone's smart, everyone's ugly, everyone's sexy. So just do whatever it is that you're going to do. But look at what Pluto rules in your chart. Really look at the Pluto-Leo axis. And the thing that I've taught about in my courses, if you're a part of the Learn Astrology tier, is the sun and the moon are life bringers, right? Because in astrology, if you don't know this already, 80% of the people on social media who talk about astrology do not know what they're talking about. And the 20% who do never post. And it's very frustrating. And I have to bully my astrology friends to post more. But here's the thing. In astrology, the meaning of the good planets come from their light, comes from how much light they have and the significance of that. And the idea of the philosophy of astrology is essentially night and day, dark and light, hot, cold, dry, moist. And the sun is looked at as a life bringer because light is what brings life and darkness is what brings death. And so when you look at the Leo Aquarius axis, Saturn rules over Aquarius. Saturn rules Aquarius because it's the darkest, dimmest planet, and Aquarius is one of the darkest, dimmest signs given the seasons. And so when you have the moon in Leo, our emotions are connected to this idea of the divine masculine, of God, of pride, of the father. And it's going opposite, again, the crowd, the being lost in the sense of other people's ideas. And God speaks to us individually, and the devil works through crowds of people. And so I think about this a lot in terms of, and a lot of people give me shit of oh, why you're so negative about Aquarius. I'm not negative about Aquarius. I do traditional, I fucking know what I'm talking about. You guys listen to 1970s astrologers who thought Aquarius was everyone doing a circle jerk and smoking weed together. And it just isn't. And so while there are positive parts about Aquarius, as Pluto goes through there, Pluto sure as hell ain't a good planet. That's not something that we really want to see, right? And I think a lot about the axis between the idea of what is light and what is dark. And so as the moon goes opposite Pluto, we're striving for that light. We're striving to reach that higher essence of ourselves. The dark is what scares us. The unknown is what scares us. You think what the crowd might think of you. They might think you're ugly. They might think you're dumb. But the reality is you're not that special. People are so much more concerned about themselves than they are about how you look about things. And you can't worry about that stuff. So I think a lot about that kind of aspect when it comes to the moon opposite Pluto. I'm kind of going in on this transit. It doesn't require all of this, but these are just, in my opinion, because I'm teaching astrology right now, it's just like I'm really concentrating on that dynamic. So once we get to Saturday, the moon will then make a sextile to Mercury as it's in Leo. Mercury's in Gemini. Again, I think a lot of this is just communicating with, sorry, I hit the microphone again, communicating with bravado, communicating with spirit, communicating with like essence and with balls. And I think that's really good. There's so much fire and air in the astrology this week. And we're coming out a period of like Saturn in Pisces and Taurus season and, Mars in Cancer. Jupiter wasn't doing all that good in Gemini. And we're starting to get this fire and this air back, which again is about life force energy, which is about that excitement. You add oxygen to fire, like it just ramps up, and right? Fire is what brings us alive. And so I really look at Saturday as it's just a fun Saturday. It's chill, nothing crazy going on, but there's a lot of communicating and like complimenting people, like, honoring people almost in a way and being able to recognize them for their goods. And don't be afraid to say stuff. Don't be afraid to give compliments to people. So then we get to Sunday, and on Sunday, again, this is pretty much when, this is on June 1st, so this is when we're starting the 90-day challenge, right? It's technically starting this week as we get prepared. I'm going to start helping everyone get prepared for what the 90 days really is. But on Sunday, the moon will conjoin Mars. It will trine Venus and sextile Jupiter. We have the highlight of Venus conjoining Chiron, and then the moon going into Virgo. So this, I'm not trying to do electional astrology with this election. Like if you're one of those astrologers, like that's a bad election. I'm not really worried about it. It's mostly I'm doing this for me, and I just want to see if other people want to join in and change their lives, because I'm going to, because I want to change. It's also my Saturn return time too. But anyway, the moon will conjoin Mars in Leo. There's going to be some, pride challenges. There's going to be some argumentation with things. But I also look at this as like Mars is in Leo with the moon in Leo. Like, man, pride is such an interesting thing in terms of like what it means historically as like what is it, like the 7 deadly sins, and then what it means for like the LGBT community. And the reason I say it that way is words can change meanings given the context of what culture is. And when I say pride, I mean like, there's a difference between being like, oh, I love and respect myself, right? Which is fine. But what I really mean by that is like stepping into the part of yourself that that you have. Like so much of shame is just about knowing that you can do better and knowing that you have capabilities beyond what you're doing right now. And so like shame is disappointing that. Shame is not meeting up to that mark. And I look at this moon conjoining Mars and then trining Venus and sextiling Jupiter is like, take pride in your performance. Take pride in your actions. If you're going to be on stage and everyone's going to see you, give them the performance. Like put yourself out there, put your body and energy into it, right? Like you can't half-ass things. So like on YouTube right now, you have to understand when I'm recording, you put 2 times the energy into being on camera than you do talking naturally. I think that's always what's funny when people diagnose my mental illnesses in the comments. And it's so funny to me. Like the parasocial relationship stuff is so funny to me because you guys, you talk to me or listen to me all the time. And so therefore you think that there's like this crazy relationship. I don't even know who you are most of the time. Like 99% of the time, I have no idea you exist. But then people feel like they can like diagnose me. I'm like, when you're in front of camera, like I do my best to be honest and clear and authentic, but you also are doing a performance at the end of the day because, if I talk like this and I just kind of showed up in, kind of like my normal, energy, it seems really low energy versus when I'm a little bit more heightened energy, it seems like that would be like the normal. That seems more regular to the viewer here. And so I just think about that with the moon conjoining Mars and Leo as like, you have to kind of show up a little bit brighter. You have to show up a little bit bigger because life is a performance. Anyway, the moon will trine Venus in Aries. Fun. Moon sextiles Jupiter. Fun. It's hostile, but it's sexy, and there's a lot of fun play on Sunday. The Venus conjoins Chiron, though, and the thing I wrote down was ... You needed that. I think a lot about with Chiron and the concept of the wounded healer, right? Oftentimes the things that are going to heal us are the things that are going to hurt us, right? And something I think a lot about is, and this is something that if there's anything I want people to walk away with my content with, is that like your biggest problems in your life are oftentimes your biggest blessings in disguise. And let's just say for a second that's wrong and it's incorrect. That thought process will still only benefit you. And you have to look at life happening for you, not against you. When God does things in your life that you go, why me? Why did this happen? You can't think of it that way. You have to understand that everything is for your growth. Everything is striving to a higher place. Life is all about tapping into that potential and growing. And so when you have like this Chiron thing, like I really think about, this whole Venus retrograde situation that we just had, what has changed in that house that Aries rules for you? And what can you look at your life that might be very sensitive, that might hurt a lot, that might feel like a downfall, that you are down bad? But you have to look at these things as God is operating for you and he's doing things to help you and benefit you in your life. And that wounded healer aspect is like, I was just listening to this actor. I forgot his name. He's like one of my favorite actors too. He just talked about how he like drank himself to like near death when he was getting a lot of fame. And he was like, that was like the biggest blessing because I stopped drinking after that. And it's like, so many times in your life, like your lowest point can be your biggest opportunity, can be that pivot point. And so I look at Venus conjoining Chiron as that. There's something about this that hurts. There's something about this that's not that fun, but you needed that. And then as we get later into the evening, the moon ingresses into Virgo on Sunday night, and it's just pretty much prepping for next week. Next week, quite a bit of highlights. We have Venus in Aries sextiling Jupiter and Gemini. That's fun. Mercury sextiling Mars. That's also fun, especially for just kind of like yelling. Venus ingresses into Taurus. Holy shit, we're starting to get some dignity back in the astrology. There's been no dignity for so long with now Saturn in Aries and then, Venus in Aries and Jupiter in Gemini. As Venus goes into Taurus, we get some dignity back. Mercury conjoins Jupiter, which is kind of a big deal in terms of just how things work in the astrology. We'll talk about that next week. And then Mercury enters Cancer. So, like I said, if you're interested in the 90-day new identity challenge, sign up below. You'll see the link. It'll explain everything that's going on. And with that being said, I'll be seeing you guys next week.